Hello, welcome to Module B, the second module. Anyways, in this 2-week session, what we are going to be doing is learning a little bit more about the supply and demand curves. And we are going to talk a little bit in Chapter 6 about how government actions influence our equilibrium. How government actions stop supply and demand curves from operating the way that they did. Sometimes government actions will, in the case of something like a rent control law, limit the prices that can be adjusted. And so the prices where supply equals demand may not be legal. In other cases, you may have governments who have actions that put a minimum floor, such as minimum wage. If you have the supply of labor, people willing to work at different price points, and companies willing to hire, where the equilibrium is where supply equals demand, right? But the government starts saying, well, wait a minute, we need to have a working level because otherwise social events, big corporations may be taking advantage of folks who have no choice but to work at very small wages because they are close to hunger, right? We need to put a minimum wage law into effect, essentially saying supply and demand, for a particular worker group cannot have price points that are lower than a minimum standard. Now, there's a bunch of social and governmental reasons why they may choose to do that. But those are illustrations of where the supply and the demand are not allowed by the government to fully play out. In other ways, in Chapter 6, the government influences things by putting restrictions, taxes, etc., that, if they put a tax on consumers, it shifts the consumer's line because of the taxes, right? If they put a tax on suppliers, it shifts the curve. And in those cases, government actions will change what the equilibrium price is going to be, right? And in addition to that, why would the government be imposing taxes? Well, there are things that government needs to do, such as roads and things like that, right? So there are, a military, police force, etc., and those things are not free. So at some point in time, the government has to raise revenue. Well, if they raise revenue through taxes, it influences the supply and demand curve. So, we look at that at Chapter 6. In Chapter 5, and in this case, I almost recommend you did supply and demand curves and shifts in the supply and demand in Chapter 4. My belief is Chapter 6 is the logical extension of that. Chapter 5 introduces a brand new concept, which is the concept of elasticity. Okay, and the elasticity issue is one that is very interesting because it starts talking about how consumers, and to some degree businesses, will react to different price changes, right? Now, remember, when we talk about price changes, we are typically about staying on the same demand curve, just at a different price point, higher or lower, but we're still on that same line. Okay, so The idea of elasticity is one of if prices go down 10%, how big of a change is that in terms of the demand? Actually, I should change my wording. How much of a change is it on the quantity demanded, right? Because the demand curve won't shift just because the prices change. Where you are on the price curve shifts, and the terminology we use is quantity demanded or quantity supplied, right? There are other elasticities having to do with things like income. If a family's income goes up 10%, what happens to their steak consumption or their corn on the cob consumption? It changes, right? Well, a 10% increase in someone's wages, what does that do in a percentage basis to how much steak or meat they were buying, right? So these are the concepts that are covered that are introduced in chapter 5 and the implications of that. Anyways, whichever way you choose to read the book, you can read it my way, which is skip over chapter 5, do 6, and then go back and do 5. If you are, no, I'm going to read it the way the authors wanted the book to be read, well, then fine, read chapter 5 and then chapter 6. I don't think it really matters that much. Again, my preference would be do chapter 4, 6, go back and do 5. But no harm, no foul if you did it the other direction. Right? Anyways, I hope you enjoy, reading these chapters. We have a couple discussion board questions. One of them having to do with governmental actions and what you would do. And we have a question on elasticities as to eggs in particular, because eggs have, if you went to the grocery store, as I have done, egg prices have had huge increases in the last month or so. And I'm curious as to, whether it's changed your behavior or not, or whether, $4 for a or $5 for a dozen eggs or $3 for a dozen eggs doesn't actually change my demand very much at all, right? Anyways, be love to hear about your comments on that, and we will bring that up a little bit later. This module only has 2 chapters in it, okay? The elasticity chapter is a little bit complex. If you are a little mathy, it takes a little bit more time to think through than some of the other wordy chapters that we may have done before. So I've only included 2 chapters in this module. All right. Anyways, good luck to it. At the end of this module, we will post a test. Please do the homework assignments. Please do the reading. And please go to the discussion boards and join us there. Okay. Look forward to talking to you again in about a week and a half. And we'll have a couple concluding remarks on this chapter. Good luck. Bye-bye.